welcome to another episode of the REI Rocketfuel podcast. Today, I am joined by a very special guest, none other than investor, developer, and author, Nathan Brooks. Nathan, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join the podcast. I've been looking forward to this for a long time. I'm glad we finally got it on the books.
Me too, brother. I appreciate you having me on, and it's a real pleasure to be hanging out with you today, man.
I appreciate it. So I guess talk to the audience, about your business. What's your business look like? I know kind of surface level, all the different fingers that you've got your pots in, but I'm excited to hear really how deep that goes. And I'm sure the audience is as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I have an Airbnb holding business. So we're actively, buying and renovating and making beautiful these, awesome Airbnb houses, mostly focused in the luxury space, but we do some that are, more, normal or average size. And then we have a development company where we are building and doing, ground up stuff, both horizontal and vertical. And so we do both multifamily and single family. I have multifamily partners, so we take down like bigger multifamily stuff as well. And that's really kind of the newest thing for me, but actively, buying and looking for those. And then I also have a meetup, a Facebook group. We have just shy of 13,000 people. And really, it's just been a resource. And now we're really in the process of now growing that to help more people have more education, more coaching, and like actual like quick start stuff for people. And I just wrote a book. So
So talk to us about the book. You're the first author that we've had on the show. Talk to us about that.
Cool. Yeah. Well, I just wrote the book. It was published on January 10th with Morgan James Publishing. And so I got the book right here. It's pretty cool to see.
No Quitter's Guide.
No Quitter's Guide.
Real estate investing and building an extraordinary life.
Yep. So books have changed my life. And I think a lot of people, trying to get started, like what's an inexpensive, high leverage opportunity, right? Like what can I do to really get information and to, learn about something without spending a lot of money? And books, literally, I mean, they're an incredible resource. And I don't think, yeah, right. So, and what high performer do you know that doesn't spend time reading? I don't know any.
I don't know any either.
Zero. So, I was inspired to think about how can I create a book? How can I write a book that has not only the intention of helping people get rolling and be successful, but then also create a vision component within it that helps you think through not just the act of doing business, but the act of creating a life that is served by that business, and that you really enjoy that life and really enjoy those experiences.
That's awesome. And so for those who don't know, and maybe this is new information to me as well, all of this, your Airbnb, your development, do you do any regular fix and flips or regular long-term holds, like single family stuff, or you're just doing multifamily holds?
Yeah. So for the last from 2015 to 2021 ish, we flipped about 700 houses. So we were
700 houses.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah. It's a few. That's
more than one.
Yeah. It's more than one. It's a handful. So we were providing a turnkey product for investors all over the country and
gotcha.
Internationally. And so we bought them, renovated them, and sold them. We added almost $50 million, give or take, to our clients' portfolios. But what I realized, Lawton, was that I did it all for them, right?
Yeah. and then you got picked once and it was done.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so I was tired of that. And I was also getting burned out, frankly, having a big team, a huge overhead, multiple six figures a month just to literally break even.
Yeah. Just to keep the lights on, just to keep everybody on payroll, buy material, holding costs, carried interest, all of it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. And so, I've really been on this self-exploration journey of how can I be more in line with what I really want my life to look like, as a dad, as a husband, as a business owner, as a, whatever the things, I love to play music. I've actually made my living as a musician first. That was my first profession for like 2 decades.
What?
Yeah. 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 So
in what bands, what instrument? Like, would we know anything?
You probably wouldn't know anything, but yeah, I still play to this day, piano, bass, and guitar. I taught theory. I sing. I still play on a regular basis. I have a grand piano upstairs and I actually have a piano room at my house
What? That's bad to the bone, man. That's way cool.
Yeah,
okay, so we're joined today by real estate investor, developer, author, and musician extraordinaire and music theory teacher, Nathan Brooks. Sorry, let's start the podcast over.
That's right.
Is there anything else that you do that, like, how many hats can you wear, man?
Well, I am an avid or outdoorsman hunter.
There we go.
So that's something, yeah, for real.
Okay.
Maybe 6-8 weeks ago, I was in Idaho on a backcountry hunt. So we were literally, they fly you in on a bush plane, like 4 guys jammed in like sardines, and drop you off. We rode horses like 6 to 10 hours a day in the middle of nowhere, Idaho for 7 days. So yeah, I'm into that too.
Awesome.
Yeah. I want to be the Renaissance man, bro.
There you go. The Renaissance man with luxury real estate.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. Exactly.
The real estate's fancy. Nathan's not fancy.
That's right.
There you go.
That's right. I can be fancy if we need to be, but if I like have my choice, I'm, out in the middle of nowhere, slinging my rifle around and hanging out in the mountains.
I love it. Yeah. So you did 700 fix and flips in 6 years.
Yep.
And most of those were to turnkey investors. Did you do any to retail buyers, or was it all to turnkey investors?
Yeah, we did do some stuff to retail. We did, hold, and I personally held, several dozen rentals as well, but I never really took the time to keep holding them. And I really regret that, honestly. Yeah. It's a decision that I would do differently. But going forward, now I'm focused on bigger deals that either are highly leveraged to make more money, like in single deals, or that we can hold. So we're building and doing BRRRR into like small multifamily, and then built up to 15 or 20 Airbnb units over the last couple of years as well. So that's really doing well, and it also has a much higher return per unit than my single families had.
Sure. And correct me if I'm wrong, all of this is in the Kansas City metro.
I have the vast majority is Kansas City metro, and then I also have some stuff in Texas.
Oh, cool. We're at in Texas.
South Texas. It's called the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
And, lots of cool stuff going on down there. And then I'm also in the market, by the way. So anybody listening, if you're in Scottsdale or you're in St. Pete, I'm in the market as well as a mountain house sometime this year. So those are the goal: either one in St. Pete or Scottsdale for luxury Airbnb, and then some sort of mountain house.
You're speaking my language. Scottsdale is where I'm retiring. Scottsdale is it's paradise on earth. It's got the golf, the food, everything about Scottsdale is everything I want. So my wife and I, that's where we're headed. I've got some connections with some agents and some investors down there that I just built up because I'm looking for the same thing.
Love it.
I will put you in touch. Maybe we can partner in on it.
Dude, I'm down. We already have a Airbnb management that is one of the partners, and they're awesome. And we're actively looking for that as well. So we should talk offline about that, bro.
Let's do. Oh, sweet. Okay, let's wrap this podcast up so we can. Thank you everybody for joining us today. That's Nathan Brooks. That's all you need to know. We got to talk about this house in Scottsdale. Bye. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so now we've got somewhat intimate knowledge on your business. We know what you're doing these days. So you said you were a musician before.
Yep.
How on earth did you make the transition to real estate mogul, and why did you get out of that and into real estate?
Great question. So I love music to this day, but I was having the realization that in order to make the level of income and support the lifestyle that I wanted to live, I really needed to start looking at other things. and I read Rich Dad Poor Dad like every other person that
Sure.
seems to
Yeah.
have gotten into this business, right? And I just started to like think about that and take action. And one of the things I talk about all the time is imperfect action. I took a lot of imperfect action, and I did a lot of deals that, you know, I really didn't understand fully what I was getting into. I didn't really have a clear buy box, but all that imperfect action really helped me towards being able to take better action and more clear action and scale my business too. So really there wasn't a whole lot of parallels other than literally playing music and reading and dreaming and thinking about like, hey, how could I actually create this? And so I took action that way.
That's awesome. Okay. So you just, it was strictly an income thing. It was, you were, maybe the musician career or the dream around it may have been kind of tailing to an end, and it was just, okay, now what? Or it was strictly, I'm not making enough money.
Well, at one point I was literally, so I both did secular and sacred stuff. So like in the bars till 3 a.m. and also in the church for the, simple version of that. And so I was literally at the largest United Methodist church in the US as a worship leader doing, like, it was Christmas time, and we, at all our campuses, we'd have 36,000 people through our doors, which is insane, right?
That's nuts.
Totally nuts. And I was literally, I think it was like 4 rehearsals and 6 services in
Right.
2 or 3 days.
Right.
And I'm flipping like 7 houses by myself at the same time. And I was like, all right, enough's enough.
Right.
So I can go do this. And I see that the exit. And let me tell you, I was terrified.
Sure.
I was terrified, but I also could see the opportunity, and I knew I had to just get after it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, anything worth doing, any venture worth leaping into, or any new discipline of any kind worth leaping into should be freaking terrifying.
Yeah.
If it's not, you're probably not thinking big enough, or, too small, too comfortable. There's a million different ways to dive into that. So from your first house to 7 houses at once to 700 in 6 years, what's the biggest lesson you've learned, or biggest mistake you've made along the way? Like, what just really sticks in your craw of like, oh, that deal or that decision, that hire, that whatever it was? Because we've all got them.
Yeah, we do. I would say the one that I've contemplated the most recently is, and let's be clear, I've screwed up a lot of things many times.
Sure.
Right. So it's not a matter of, we could have a whole podcast or a whole series on that one. But I think the one for me that showed up the most after working through as an author in a book, one of the things that really makes you think about, like, what am I writing, and why am I writing it, and what does it actually mean? And so I think as I was writing this book and thinking about it, it was about being more purposeful in, not just in business, but in anything that I do, and making sure that there was an actual reason behind it. Not like, gosh, let's just go do more deals for the sake of doing more deals, but let's do them for the sake of really actually executing the goal that we laid out, that was a purposeful goal and that meant something. And so I am still on a path right now, and I'm still fired up about real estate, if not more so than I have been in a long time, because I now see more clearly than ever that I'm like, I don't want to do deals that I either don't make a ton of money in one deal, or I can buy it, I like it,
Right.
I would live in it, and I'm going to hold it for the next 20, 30, 40, 50 years. So that's what I've been thinking about.
I love it. Okay, sweet. So we've talked about your business, the kind of properties that you're buying, where you're buying them, in building all of that, in all the mistakes along the way, all of the hurdles, all of the roadblocks, everything that did and could have stand and stood in your way of getting there. Why have you and your team been so successful when so many others haven't? Because a real estate business, and really any business, is simple in theory. It's
Right.
like playing golf. You have to get this little ball on this huge fairway. How freaking hard could that be? It's 100 yards wide. You have to get this little ball 3 inches wide somewhere over there, anywhere on the short grass. And yet it is so difficult for so many people, sometimes myself included, depending on how many beers I've had. Why do you think you and your team have been successful when so many others haven't?
Well, I'm going to use a golf analogy. Okay.
Perfect.
So I just started playing
Speaking
golf.
my language, Scottsdale, golf. Bring it on, man. Let's bring it on.
I just started playing golf. So I can't remember his name, but there's a Japanese man who won the Masters, I think, 2 years ago?
Colin Morikawa.
Yep. And I was literally sitting there, which I never watched golf, bro. I don't know why I was watching golf. It was just a random Sunday.
Because it's the Masters, that's why.
Yeah, it must be, right? So I'm watching.
I got the Masters green on right now. If you're listening and you're not watching, I got the Masters green row back on today.
It's sharp. It's sharp. So I was watching that and I'm thinking, like, these guys are insane. But, I really didn't have a level of appreciation of like how good that you really had to be to do that. And forever I'd been putting it off because I obsess about everything. So if I'm going to play golf, I'm going to obsess about playing golf. And so I was like, not now. But there's something that day that was like, it's time. It's like the go time, man. And so literally I post on Facebook and I say, what would you do? Clubs, whatever. I get a bunch of people's suggestions, but what I end up doing is literally the next day I schedule an appointment to go get clubs fitted and I hire a coach. And when I think about the thing that, and by the way, this last year, I shot an 86 in my first played about a half a year winter, played this whole last season. And so I was thrilled. It was kind of a fluke. I haven't shot it that, near that since, but like low 90s with a handful of mulligans.
Sure.
But I think it's the same approach to business, which is we are going to continually be relentless. We're going to continually get better. We're going to continually work on the business. We're going to refine the tools that we use. We're going to hire a great coach who understands what we're doing and can see. I remember when I had the first couple lessons with my coach, he's like, let me see your swing. And I'm thinking, great, this, but I don't know how to swing. Yeah. And he's like, well, that was pretty terrible. So we have a lot to work with. And, and I like to win. Like I like to win. I like to be competitive in literally everything I do. But that was the thing, is like, I kept showing up. And I think for people, it's so easy. And I'm reading the David Goggins most recent book right now. So nothing like lighting a fire under you, where I just got done listening to the portion where he was running the Moab 240, which is 240 miles, bro. 240 miles. I've done a lot of crazy stuff. I've been in a cage fight. I've jumped out of airplanes. I've done triathlons. I cannot imagine 240 miles. No. I'm just thinking, like, you have to have perseverance to actually go through all the things, all the challenges, all the opportunities, all the distractions in order to get to the place of being successful. And it's the line, like anything, simple, not easy.
Absolutely. Well said. Okay. I guess up next, talk to us about what you see. I mean, you've got your hands in so many different pots: the short-term game, the long-term game, the development game, the fix and flip game, different markets, a lot of different avenues. So you're going to be seeing it from pretty much all angles except the retail angle, unless I missed something.
We've done retail too. And just I also do some coaching as well. And even like last week, I was in 3 time zones, 4 teams, in 3 states in 5 days. So so I get to see other markets and other people operating too. So that
Sure.
does help.
Okay, well, that's good to know. Do you see your strategies changing in the next six? Well, I guess let me lead with this. Where do you see the market going in the next six to 12 months? And
Yeah.
second question, how do you think that's going to impact your current strategies and business model?
Okay. Yeah. So current market and then business strategy.
Yeah.
So, first of all, the market actually has had a bit of an uptick,
Yeah.
which is
I've noticed that in Wichita.
in Wichita. Great.
Yeah.
Well, and of course that's interesting, right? You're in Wichita. I'm in Kansas City. We're both middle America markets. Yep. So we tend to see stuff later, which is pretty interesting that we're seeing that. So my friends that are in like East Coast, West Coast, they've actually already had even, a little bit longer period of things getting a little better. It's so as far as the market goes, I think it's still softening some, but we have such a low inventory. I don't foresee, unless something really crazy changes, that we continue to have like a huge decline in prices. I think it's still going to be hard to get deals because there's not many out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know what you're seeing, but we're not seeing tons of great deals right now. I think people who are already hurting will probably continue to hurt or have more trouble, just because the price of everything is still up. Inflation still sucks. Cost of milk or cost of bread and eggs and all these things.
Golly.
It's crazy, right?
The carton of eggs is your proof of funds.
I know, it really is. It's like, might as well show up with a chicken, man. At least it'll like keep kicking it out. But I really do believe that if you are a person who is offensively minded and strategic, you can still do very well in this market right now. And I think it's people like, I do not want to be over my skis. I do not want to be going so hard because I am blindly. I want to be really, really thoughtful about what that is and protecting my downside. In Tony Robbins' Money Mastering the Game, he talks about the wealthiest people in the world. They are not just looking at what the upside is, but they're like, what's my upside, but what's my downside protection? So if I'm putting up X number of money, like what's the worst case? Can I break even out of this thing versus like have a huge loss? So, and that's something I've had to learn the hard way a number of times, which is not fun. But that's what I'm thinking about a lot. And then second, anything you want to hit on the market?
No, I mean, I share the same sentiment here in Wichita. I think there's an important distinction to understand that in Wichita, what we've seen is I don't think that we're going to see prices drop. I think what we are going to see and what have already seen is that the rate at which prices rise is going to drop or stagnate. Because, I mean, over the last, 7, 8, 10 years, maybe in the Wichita market, appraisals and appraisers have just kept the value so low, like have just held it and suppressed it in Wichita. And then the last 2 years, we kind of caught back up with that last 8 to 10 years worth of value suppression. And then it looked like hockey stick. But really, all we were doing was catching up with the rest of the world. And everyone that I've talked to kind of in the Midwest, save for Texas, which isn't really the Midwest, it's also not really the South. Texas is Texas.
Right.
And anybody from Texas will tell you that Texas is Texas. But
yeah,
I've seen and heard from a lot of people in the Midwest that we're like, and from other markets like you have, they were already experiencing that like consistent year over year, 15, 20, 30% rise year over year. Wichita had like a 35, 38% rise like that. And everybody's like, oh, it's not sustainable. It's crazy. And they're right. And it's such an important distinction. There's like, so we got a retail brokerage in town as well that I'm an owner in. So I see investment side and like the retail consumer side as well. And I see them both on a daily basis. And it was kind of a joke for a while. Like we had to teach agents that we had hired that had only been in the business for a year or two, like, okay, a price reduction is what you do when you have to lower the price on your listing that hasn't sold, because they'd never had to friggin' do it. And it was half joking, half like, this is the reality. And so many people, especially what I think and like what I can speak with on or with authority on is in Wichita and the metro surrounding, is so much of what we're seeing now is just that catching back up with where we should have been keeping up with everyone else. And it hit us hard. And now I think we're going to level off. Do I think it's going to get a little worse before it gets better? Sure. But it's not like it's not like we saw 35% last year and we're going to see negative 20% this year. Do I think we'll drop 2 or 3, 5% at the worst? Probably. But it's like you from an investment side and from a retail side, on both hands, you cannot go back in time and buy that dream house or buy that great deal, depending on which side of the coin that we're looking at. There's always going to be an opportunity. There's always going to be a different product. There's going to be a different bank that wants to come in and earn some business. There's always going to be an opportunity to lower your monthly payment, to lower your interest rate, to refinance. And it might be 6 months. It might be 18 months. It might be 2 years, 3, 4. No one knows. But what is for damn sure is you cannot go back in time and have locked that deal down. So that you can't miss on the can't miss opportunities.
I couldn't agree more. I could not agree more. And, I'm being more strategic. I'm being more careful on my underwriting, but I'm still pulling trigger on deals that make sense. Right. And I think that any savvy investor that is thinking about buying, you should be more careful. We want to make sure if there's an incremental, continued decrease of value. Yeah. Let's keep track of it, but let's also not keep that from us making good deals and good decisions and being on offense. Right. So you and I are on the same page. Business strategy wise, I actually have changed, just not like this moment, but we dramatically reduced the size of our business over the last 18 months, just in the spirit of this same problem. Like, what do I want my life to look like? How do I want to spend my time in my business? What are the things I'm really good at? And so, we were, building and renovating a ton of deals, and we have drastically reduced our team and drastically reduced the number of deals we're doing. And in the spirit of like, hey, I want to do less deals, better deals, bigger deals, and hold. And so it doesn't take nearly the staff to do that. And I've also had a lot of success on that joint venture side in bringing the things that I'm good at to the things that other people are good at. And so, my business strategy is literally exactly how I laid it out.
Okay. So talk to us about that. So talk to us about, downsizing or removing the certain departments in your business. Talk to us about the people that, were involved in that. Talk to us about what led to that decision. How long did you waver? Like, you say that your business runs and is now exactly how you laid it out. How did you lay it out? How did you arrive to decide how you wanted to lay it out? How many times did it change? Give us all the details. Walk through that journey, because I know I'm curious about all of that, and I know there's people in our audience that would love to hear more details about that. We got the 30,000 foot view of it. I want to get in the weeds with you on this.
Great question. No one's asked me that, so it's pretty cool. Well, first of all, we had been pondering this for a long time, and between the renovation side and the new construction side, and I don't come from, a history of builders. I don't, as I said, I was, poor musician and teaching piano lessons, playing in bars, singing and leading worship in churches, and I love that, right? But so when I started getting into the real estate, I was like bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And, like, how are we going to grow next year? And how are we going to, do we double in size? And a couple of the years, early on, we did, nearly double the size from year to year. And what I never really took stock of was, I was starting to make less money doing more deals.
Yeah.
And B, I was just getting super burned out, is kicking my ass. And I was frustrated with the experience I was having actually in the business. And so my partner and I kept talking, and we started to kind of fantasize almost about like, gosh, what would it look like if we, XYZ? What would it look like if we didn't, fix and flip a house anymore? What if it would look like if we, did less deals or had a lower, overhead or whatever. And so we actually brought somebody in to help us work through those questions. And
Oh, cool.
And start to say like, okay, like, let's talk through this in a logical fashion. And of course, I'm a feeling guy. I'm a visionary. I like to I make a decision. I already think it's done. But this is one of those where you can't do that, right? You
Right.
have to literally live through this question, live through this problem, and make sure we're making a conscious decision. And so we ultimately decided to shut down the entire renovation and fix and flip department. So we were, we had a huge construction department. We had acquisitions department. We had sales department. And is one of those things, and I distinctly remember, because not only did we make a decision, but then we'd had a conversation with our then COO. And she and I were talking about that, and the realization that not only did you make a choice, but about a business, but you also made a choice about people.
Right.
And so then there's conversations with those people as we let them go. And my COO and I sat there for 2 days firing people, which sucked. I have, lots of tears, lots of frustration, kind of with the situation of feeling bad for them. But also, we helped get most of those people jobs within a week or two.
That's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, I always want to do the right thing. And to this day, I'm still, friends with the majority of those people that we did business with, and, or that were on our team. But then you had the wind down of all those assets that were in there. And I don't remember exactly. It was August of 21. And I think we owned like 54 houses or something.
All under renovation? Yeah.
Well,
freaking A.
It was a big, big business at this moment. And what I started to realize was my team had been like kicking the can down the road with a number of these projects, like, oh, this one's going to be bad, because in the realization was I wasn't as good of a leader as I thought I was being, and I wasn't as in tune with my business as I thought I was.
I've made that exact mistake last year and actually in the exact same department of the fix and flip, where it was, it was running on its own, and I was like, sweet, we're killing it. Like, everything is fine. We're leaving the closing table with money. Every time we are like, we have the Midas freaking gold touch, dude. I'm on my way to an early retirement. We are chilling, and P&Ls at the end of the year. And I was like, what? How did no one step in? I didn't have any of the checks and balances in place. I signed all the checks. I made all the decisions. Everything ran through me. And I wasn't the guy to do it. And we've subsequently made changes, and we're actually turning consistent profits on multiples at once. And it's like, oh, wow, what a novel freaking idea.
Yeah, let's do all this work and not make money. It's
like, man, I could have sat on the couch at home and not risked $1 to make $0. Yeah. Okay. Sorry to interrupt, but that struck a chord with me. We just got on the other side of that a couple months ago of digging out of everything. There was some lack of accountability, too much control in the contractor's hands, and nothing here. If I got an invoice, I signed a check. I mean, I was like, cool, great, that's fine. Like, I trust you guys. It's all good.
Right.
And you can't have the fox watch the hen house. So that was
no, you cannot.
Definitely lesson learned there.
That's a tough one. It's a hard lesson. And we just decided like I didn't love it. I love doing rehabs, but I love doing them on like a big, awesome
Yeah.
house that like I have one going right now. It's 160K in one house, bro. But it's a banging house. It's in an awesome location. And
We're
we're
at
going to hold
Kansas
it.
City. Like, what's the neighborhood? I'm kind of familiar with KC.
Well, it's very near the new streetcar in the Midtown
Oh,
area.
nice. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So, and we've really strategically just been thoughtful of like, okay, where are we buying? We want to bring value, cool location, cool house, cool vibe, cool furniture, all that stuff. So, just being really strategic, but in that like production, and nothing against your business or anybody else who's built, a fix and flip machine. I just know for me, I was done with it.
Sure.
So
Well, after 700 houses, I mean, especially if you're still the one involved in running that, even at the highest level, 700 houses, that takes a toll.
it does. It's a bunch. And there was some brain damage with that. And I
Oh,
think,
God, I can't imagine.
yeah, it's a chunk, right? And I know people, like I said, who are still doing that, or even more, 10 times that even. I know people in thousands in a year, but it just wasn't something that I was like, this is not sustainable for me.
Right.
And I was introduced to a term, the desired end state, and that desired end state has to be sustainable over time for you to be successful with it.
Right.
And so, we continue to downsize, and we'd focus on new construction. And the more and more and more deals I've done on the joint venture side now, the more I realize I'm like, I can have the tiniest of team. So just a couple people now, I can make more money. I can serve those people better. And then it gives me more time, both on the coaching front, which I love, and so making an impact in other people's businesses, and also, helping in the meetup that I had started in Kansas City. And, we were regularly having 150 people show up a month at this event, but I never really got it sustainable where it was actually making money, and it was able to really take it to the next level. So I'm spending a lot more time working on that, where, hey, it'll make money, sure, but we'll also get to serve and help a lot more people, which I realized was way more of a passion for me than it was slinging a bunch of more houses.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, it's like buying a rental in a not so desirable area.
Yes.
Lower rents, lower quality tenant. You've got to measure it in cash flow and headaches, and you've got to find the balance between the two that works for you.
Yes.
And the cash flow of flipping 700 houses a year, assumably you would think, but I know from experience, not at 700, but at whatever our number is.
Yeah.
The cash flow can be good, but the headaches are high, and it's a constant turn. It's a constant hunt for that next deal.
Exactly.
700 in 5 years is bananas.
It was.
That's insane. Like I look back on probably the 120 that we've done in about the same time frame, 5-ish years. So 20-ish a year, some more, some less.
Yeah.
God, that really puts 700 in perspective. Good for you, man. That's nuts. Anyway.
Well, it was, in one hand, it's like, it taught me probably faster than what I've learned, what I wanted, and it also.
Would you do it again?
No. If I had to do it again and I was doing that, I wouldn't have sold them. I would have kept my inventory, or I'd have kept my business overhead lower, and I would have structured the way that our team was paid in a way that they got to have some upside in those houses.
Yeah.
And we would have just held, the vast majority of everything.
Yeah.
So that's how I would look at it again. Cause it's 140, 150 million ish,
in real estate.
Yeah. And, so, but it's a live and learn thing, and it's okay.
Yeah, no. And that's the thing. I was talking to to my director of operations a couple weeks ago about it, a week ago, I think. And I was like, man, like, think if we would have held on to half of the ones that we sold. Like,
yep.
we aren't chasing down deals as crazy and balls to the wall as we are right now. But we're young, we got time. And it's a lesson learned. Like, I would have rather learned this lesson at 25 than in 10 or 20 years at 45 when I've got a way bigger business. And it's like, God, like, I'm happy that I learned the things I did when I did. Were they mistakes? Did they still hurt? Absolutely. But now we are strategically making that pivot in our business to not get out of the fix and flip, but to only fix and flip and sell off the ones that are like huge swings of cash, 30, 40, 50, like big profit ones. If we're talking about another $12, $15, $18,000 one, I would just assume hang on to it.
Agreed. I couldn't agree more.
Yeah.
The clean, easy ones, like, let's just put them in the hopper. We'll hold them, and then everything, the big ones we can take a big swing on.
Right.
And we had our first 7-figure exit on a single deal this past year. And
let's talk about that. All right. That's not on my podcast agenda, but maybe I should add it. I mean, I need to get more people on the show that have a 7-figure deal. Break that deal down for us.
Yeah. So it was, originally we were going to actually do the horizontal construction and then go vertical on it. But we decided amongst the partners, this timing in the market and everything. So we had bought the ground. I think it was around 20 acres, and we did the development. It's in Texas.
Oh, okay, cool.
And so we did all the infrastructure, curbs, electrical, sewers, power, all that, and street lights, the whole deal. And so we ended up selling those and doing
with the plans.
Literally just finished lots. So it was literally the first time. It was just ground, just finished lots. And out of the deal, the partners, made well over $1 million. So it was one of those things where it was the first realization I had that we could do a single deal that had a higher opportunity. We still utilized the leverage of the resources and people and process that we understood, right? So understood how to do that. We could do it in one deal. We could utilize our fund to help, our investors who they're in there and invested in earning a return on their money. And so we get to use that to help, helps them, helps us, and helps our partners in the deal. So it's pretty wild.
That is insane. One deal, 7 figures. That's not, and it was just infrastructure.
Just infrastructure. Yep.
Okay. So when you find the next one of those that you think you're just going to put the infrastructure into, holler at me. I'd love to put some money in that deal.
They're good, aren't they? It's
holy moly.
Yeah. It's really interesting when you start to look at like, okay, we're working on ones now where, hey, we can build this, group of properties and have $1 million in equity in one deal. And so how do we just do that? Or one that has 2 million or 5 million in equity. And the other interesting thing is sometimes when you actually get into those bigger deals, they're actually easier than the smaller deals.
Yeah.
The banks like them. The banks like, something of structure. They're underwriters like that because they have lots of coverage with lots of different rents. And so, it's been a really interesting learning experience for sure.
That is incredible, man. That is a hell of a deal.
I'm
so glad that you brought that up.
Oh, thank you.
That's insane, man. Congrats on that. Congrats to you and your partners, and good luck on all your other ones on that. I can't wait to hear about the next one. That's insane.
We have another one rolling now, and
also in Texas.
Also in Texas, and lots of opportunity. And I think if people are listening to this or thinking about this, is like, what am I really good at? And I'm not good at putting in those gutters, but I'm good at understanding, bringing together people and putting together deals that make sense and creating synergies. And so when I started living more and more and more in my personal genius zone, I was having more fun, and we as a company and as partners were making more money. And so, I encourage people to just think about that. Like, am I living in my genius? Am I doing what I love? And of course, every day I don't get to do everything that, is the best. I'm not on the golf course, but it's more in alignment, right? It's more in alignment with what I want to do in my life and more in alignment with what I'm naturally good at and the things I enjoy doing.
That's awesome, man. That's way cool.
Thank you.
So wrapping up, what would be your best piece of advice to a newbie investor? They've made the decision to buy their first deal, or they've already got it and they're working on it. They've made the decision to get into it, or they just got started into it. What's the best piece of advice you'd give them?
Yeah. Have a vision for what you want when you go into it. So create that thing. Like, what does this look like when it's built?
Begin with the end in mind.
Begin with the end in mind. And number two is have patience and perseverance, because you're going to have obstacles, and those are normal. Anybody successful you see, they have struggles, they have trouble, they have things that don't work out. Believe me, you and I just talked about it, right? We both had these experiences. And people look at both of us and say, hey, you guys are super successful. And some days I'm like, I suck. I really suck at this. And I've done tens and tens and tens and tens, hundreds of millions of dollars in real estate, right? So it's okay. And then number three is, I love the line, everything is nothing and the one thing is everything. And pick a strategy, pick something that you're going to go after and master it. And it doesn't mean that you see a business like yours or business like mine where we have, multiple things that are going on, but you don't see the 5 years or 10 years I spent figuring it out.
Right.
And I'm not going to say I was always perfect at this either, but I recognize now that by having a focus on one thing until you can have it up and running and it run without you, or run, the vast majority without you, then that's where your focus needs to be. In that a time and attention, a focus on one thing with the end in mind, with perseverance, will always create what you want over time.
I love it. Well freaking said, man. Well said. Nathan, thank you again for joining us today. If anybody from our audience wants to email you, find you on social media, how can they do it?
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to shamelessly plug this sweet book one more time.
The No Quitters Guide.
Yep. It's available anywhere books are sold. So Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Books A Million, Target, you can go buy it. If you do and it does something for you, I just ask for people to leave a review. It makes a huge difference as we're getting this book out. And then social media is the best for me. Make it real simple, at Nathan Brooks, REI, and Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, soon to be the website and everything will also all be that.
That's awesome. Yes, man. Nathan, thank you again. Thank you so much. Looking forward to seeing if we can't make something happen in Scottsdale together, man.
Oh, believe me, you're speaking my language on that,
dude. Let's get after it, man. I'm pumped now. Okay, well, man, thank you very much again for joining us today. We'll holler at you later. Catch you next time.
Later, man.
Later.